My name's Doug Fletcher. I'll tell a little bit of a story. I came a long way. I'm from Northern California, and in 2012, I was building greenhouses for an upcoming food famine with a bunch of ex-military guys in a place called St. John's, Arizona. 3 years later, I got a dream, a reoccurring dream, over and over and over again. It said, go back to Arizona. When I'm told, which I'm not often told, I do what I'm told. So I exited. I came out and was told again to go up to, I was in Scottsdale, the Valley, Arizona, to go up to these White Mountains where I'd been building greenhouses years ago. I stopped suddenly, having to excuse myself, looked up, saw an organic market, said, oh, this is interesting, in the middle of nowhere. Drove my car out, found out that I was on the actual aquifer that I'd been looking for. An hour and a half later, this man drives up with a flatbed truck full of soil. Stops right in front of me. I took a look at it and said, oh, I can see the mycelium in the soil. And he says, well, it's a little bit more than that. So I go over and I look, and he's got the same pipe that I'm smoking. He's got the same dog that I have. And I'm going, this is very strange. He tells me he's got the best soil in the world. And that was kind of a hell of a pitch to believe. After meeting him and going back to the Valley, I checked the sources. Bryan's soil ranks #1 in any of the major labs that have tested it. IAS Labs is an international lab. It's an impartial lab out of Arizona. They put his soil #1 on 3 different categories, the major 3 categories, and they spent $11,000 for their raised beds. So Bryan's known to double and triple people's yields. Bryan's got a live mycelium-based soil with the 20 essential microbes, the 8 essential mycorrhizae. He's been dealing, he's got a 16-year-old compost or yeast pile that he's been creating. Well, this is your life's work. So he's got an amendment line that kind of, adds to it. He's got a mega citrus if you're going, oranges. He's got a mega peppy if you're going peppers. And Bryan can get you up and going. So I'm going to shut up now. Bryan's going to talk for a little bit. We're going to do a question and answer. And at the end, we're going to have a little talk about maybe possibly solution with my friend Dan over here. Without further ado, you guys, welcome Bryan Jones.
Good to be live. Well, let me just tell you a little bit how this started. It was about 16 years ago. I kept getting this reoccurring dream to build compost piles. And then, so I acted upon it. And then the dream taught me how to actually produce this yeast pile. And I believe, God is the one that taught me how to do this. When I was a small kid, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, I guess. I was with Grandma out in the garden. And first thing we did before we entered Grandma's gardens, we had to take our shoes off. That was part of the tradition. You wanted to honor the soil by not walking on it with shoes on. So I take my shoes off, and then the next thing we did is put the seeds in our mouth. And then, we'd spit them and put them in, or I got pretty good at just spitting them right in the row, the beans and bigger seeds, And one day I said, Grandma, why are we doing this? Why do we have to put the seeds in our mouth? Can't we just put them in? And she said, no, that's the way my mother did it. That's the way we're going to do it. And she said, when I was your age, I asked my mother the same question. You know what she told me? I don't know. But that's the way my mother did it. That's the way we're going to do it. Now, I travel all over the country now and meet people from all different countries. And what I've discovered is that these traditions were used worldwide up to about 1940. And that's when Satan came up with this chemical fertilizer. The first thing that chemical fertilizer does is to destroy the mycelium in the soil. The mycelium is our source of nitrogen from the air. Mycelium has a symbiotic relationship between the soil and the plant. And this relationship was designed for us humans. It's God's gift to us. It says in the Bible, the birds want nothing. All their needs are taken care of. A little bird. And then it talks about the lilies in the valley and all this. And then what does it say? And God loves you even more than that. So this soil, or the mycelium, is our bird seed. It's our gift from God to feed our bodies. And this is how it works. You deposit your DNA in the soil. See, when Grandma was having me put that seed in the mouth, we didn't know we were putting our DNA on there. We were doing it out of tradition. And we took our shoes off before we entered the garden. We were depositing our DNA as we walked through the fields, as we walked through the garden, not knowing that that's what we were doing. My grandmother lived to be 100 years old, and she never went to one doctor. I can't even remember the last time I've been to a doctor myself, because what happens is, and the University of Ukraine and the University of Russia both proved this 4 years ago, that they scientifically have proved that when you put human DNA on mycelium soil, it will change the DNA of the plant to make your body the perfect medicine. Doesn't matter what you have wrong with you either. I participated in curing people with stage 4 cancers in 2 weeks. Not just one, but 4 people got that quickly, like that. And that's because this is comes from God. It's a miracle. The Lord keeps telling me over and over again, I want you to feed my people. So this is why I travel. I traveled 1,800 miles to get here with 400 bags of soil so we can get this into the land here. This mycelium, once it gets in your garden or your farm, it will transmit through a web underneath into your neighbor's farm, into your neighbor's garden, and it's here forever as long as you don't put chemicals or herbicides, all these other type of things. We got to go back to just pulling weeds. You don't have to spray chemicals to kill a weed. Just get down there and pull it out. It's dead forever that way. The other thing is to keep the nutrient levels or the ability for this mycelium to act the way it does. Now, let me back up a little bit. This process that I do, we wind up with a mycelium in that soil 100 to 100,000 times greater than what you would typically find in a typical garden. And that's through this process the Lord taught me how to do. I also have the ability now to blow this up worldwide because of the amount of yeast I have. It's huge. And we can magnify this by some other processes that the Lord's taught me how to do, but I haven't had to do it because there hasn't been that much of a demand. It's about to change, though. And I'm hoping to sell all this soil when I'm here and get it to you folks, or people that you may know that wants to garden or something like that, You just get them a couple of bags and we can start this process. If I hit all the points, Reed? Oh, you want me to tell him how? Yeah, he finds this fascinating. Reed flew in from Boston a couple of months ago. The Lord told him to come help me. I never saw this guy before in my life, and he's a very smart guy, and I love the questions. He questions everything I do, which I love because it gives me an opportunity to explain it, because sometimes I do everything so often that you kind of forget, how unique some of these things really are. You just get used to it. I think that's part of being human, I guess. But anyway, I actually train the mycelium to attach to the root of your plant at a much higher rate. And I do this with pine needles. We train them. It's a single cell, and they loop together like this, and it coats the whole pine needle just like it was a root of a vegetable or a tree or something. So that's one of the reasons why that's in there. Also, I use only carbon in this process. There's 1.5 million different mycelium strains. They estimate in the world 150,000 of them have been identified. What I've developed is totally unique, totally to that source of carbon. And the reason why I do this is because when you use animal waste for your mycelium-based compost, there's nothing wrong with that. I 100% endorse it, but you wind up with a mononote. Now that mononote is really good. You know, it does help plants grow. But what we offer is a symphony of life to that. Because of the age it takes to get there, you now have this orchestra that's in your soil. The benefit of that is that now you have a flavor. When you eat the food that comes out of this soil, it's nothing like you've ever experienced before. It's just the flavor and the energy that you get is really cool. Now, for older people like myself, you can feel 20 years younger 12 hours after you eat a piece of lettuce. To me, that's a miracle. You know, we have that vitality. And I'm 65. And I work, well, I don't know how old Reed is, but I keep up with the kid, you know, all day long. I'm in a tractor or, you know, we're physically working. And I believe it comes from this food I've been consuming, you know. But listen, I think I've kind of hit on everything. Let's open it up to questions. Yeah, let's play Stump the Plant Whisperer. That's what they call me. They call me the Plant Whisperer. This magazine called me that.
How much of the soil do I need to, of your dirt, do I need to put in my garden to get it started?
A lot. No. About 200 bags. What have we got left? No, seriously, if you've been organic and you have enough organic material in the soil, 1 bag per 100 square foot, it's not a lot. You can just dust it in there. Now, if you're starting fresh or you bought some property that had an existing garden and you weren't sure if chemicals were ever used in it, or maybe you know that, then you have to go with 3 inches. But once it's in there, it'll clean it up immediately. You grow healthy food within months out of that soil with the 3 inches in. And then to keep it going. See, it never goes away. So yeah, it costs a little bit of money, but look how long it took, you know, to make it. And then your kids will benefit from this. Your kids' kids will benefit from this. What the most important thing is not to deplete the soil. And how you do this is by composting anything you don't eat off that plant, root and all, the stem, the leaves, whatever crop it is, put it back into the compost. You have to have a compost to keep this going. But this is the way nature does, you see. I've learned how to do whole plant composting, just like nature. I compost the roots and the top part of the plant. How I do this, I simply lay it on the land, 18 inches thick, and grow different crops in there. And then we scoop it up, roots and all, and compost that. You know how long it takes to compost? 10 days. It's that active. Boom, everything's gone. It's back, ready to go again. Then I spread it out one more time, do another hay crop. I do that 3 times. And then we have a product called Fat Albert. Hey, hey, hey. And then we take that Fat Albert and we run worms in it for up to 18 months. And that worm, it's just loaded with mycelium to begin with. And then the worm magnifies that 100 to 100,000 times. So it's pretty remarkable what you got in a little bag like that. I've doubled the grape crops. You know Mike up there at Red Rock. 1 super sack per acre. That's nothing. It's like a dusting. We doubled his crop in 1 year. Yeah, he calls me up, all pissed off, or at least I thought he was. I'm mad at you. I said, what's going on, Mike? He goes, I had to buy 13,500 more wine bottles. I said, Mike, don't you get $40 a bottle for that stuff wholesale? Yeah, and he starts laughing. He goes, yeah. I said, where's my 10%, you know?
That's what I said.
Of course, the phone went dead when I said that. But anyway, let's. Did I answer your question? Yeah, and you know what? If you go by the booth after the talk, I've got a calculator. We'll figure it out to the cup what you need. Yeah.
Does it matter what time of the year? I know people live in different parts of the country.
Oh, that's a great question.
Does it matter spring or fall? I mean, right now a lot of people.
You know, it doesn't matter what time you use the soil or to inoculate your garden, but this happens to be the best time out of the whole year to do it. It's in the fall. And that's because of the diversity that's in there. See, I live in the White Mountains. It's right between the Apache and the Navajo reservation at 6,400 elevation. I get 105 in the summer and 22 below in the winter. So I have this complete, well, you couldn't get a better situation to grow microbes. Yeah, because you got them all. So it doesn't matter where I take this in the world. One of those colonies is going to blow up, take over, and do its job, and that's to feed you the perfect medicine. That's another great question. If it dries out completely, to answer your question, we know it's good to go for 2 years in the bag without adding any other ecosystem to it. But we also discovered if it dries out completely, no, don't panic, everything has just gone dormant. And when you get the moisture levels back and the temperature comes back, it comes back. Just like brine shrimp in the Salton Sea area there. Same principles, you know. So it's not, this is God's gift. I mean, this stuff is almost indestructible. But certain chemical companies have figured out a way to kill it because it's a threat to their business. You know, if you don't need to use chemicals, wouldn't you want to get rid of something like that? If you were Satan, I guess that would be the case. You know, but we believe in making things better. And that's the thing. You know, this soil is 16 years old now, guys. This compost. Guess what? In your garden next year, it's going to be 17 in your garden. You see, I'm giving you time. I'm giving you something that nobody can give, and that's time. You know, and that's another spiritual thing. I mean, how can a human being give you time? You know what I mean? It comes from the Lord. So, and the older the compost, the better the soil. So, if you guys put it on this year, and 10 years from now, you know, we call it flick a seed for a reason. You flick a seed on it, it'll grow. So, you know, I can see this, our food shortage is going away real rapidly. And I don't want to distill fear in you guys or anything like that, but it's coming. We are going to be hungry, guys. And people are going to starve in Africa, and these other countries that don't have the resources like we have here. So I tell people, listen, grow enough for your family and maybe another one down the street, or maybe that old guy that lives in a trailer by, you know, grow enough to share it with your neighbors a little bit, you know. And money, well, I won't get into all that. I don't want to.
We have a
I want to
website,
talk
you
about
guys.
solutions, not
We have a
fear,
website.
you know.
We're really into source validation. We have a website, you guys, called Flick Gardens and Greenhouses. We can get people into greenhouses as well.
Yeah.
You know, all inclusive with Bryan's stuff. You know, all source validated from we know the names of the worms, technically.
Yeah, I brand them, the little brands on there. I have 2 billion worms, by the way.
2 billion.
Are you working with any like organic farmers? Any organic farmers are you working with?
Yeah, we're just now getting the word out to everybody.
Yeah, we're looking to align with anybody out here that has connections. I mean,
Right.
Bryan's got $1 million product. This is the best soil that exists on these charts. How do we get it to people? So we're open to communicating with all of you.
You know, Doug, you don't know this, but I can treat large acreages with some brews that I do, and I mean, like if you got 5 or more acres, we can help you out in a different way too. It's going to take a little longer, but it's way cheaper. It's probably 1/20th the cost of just doing it all at once. And you know, if you're a dairy farmer or something, you got 800,000 acres. How the hell are you going to afford this stuff? You're not. So the Lord's taught me how to do this for bigger farms through brews that we do. See, part of the process is I do all these brews over these years with different formulations too. So I can take one of those, depending on the farmer's crop, and I can tweak it in to do it at a reasonable rate. You know, it's still going to be expensive, but nothing like. You know what? I bet you I'm now competitive with the chemicals financially, because they went up 4 times this year, and they're probably going to double again. You know, they're saying a loaf of bread's going to be $10, and they're not too far. They were saying that about gasoline. It's probably going to be there. You know, this all has to do with who's really running this world, and I don't want anything to do with that. So what I'm trying to do my mission. God told me to feed His people. I'm assuming you guys are all God-loving people here. You know.
I think she has pushy first, and then we'll go this way.
I have a question about the soil testing that's been done. We were listening to Morley talk about iron and copper and things like that. I was just curious to know what the soil test would have revealed about minerals that are in the soil. Do you guys have results on that kind of stuff?
You know, I do, but I haven't had a soil test done in about 4 or 5 years. I talked to Daniel. In fact, he called me on the drive here. He wants to buy more soil, this guy.
That speaks volumes. He's an impartial lab that tests for 180 countries, but thousands of different soils. And he's buying Bryan's stuff to this
So
day.
anyway, what I'll do is I'll trade him out some of his bill to a new soil test. And then we'll put it on our website so you guys can look at it if you like. But just remember, those soil tests, you know, Daniel asked me, he said, why didn't you ever test your soil? And I said, why should I? I make it. You know, why would I test something that if I was putting crap in it, then yeah, maybe, but anyway, he asked me that, and that's how I responded to it. But there was something else. Wait a minute. There was something else that came in. Okay, it's gone.
That happens a lot.
Hey, why don't you give her the mic? You could, that way we can all learn.
Will it make your plants more resilient, or is there to fight off pests as well?
You know what? I'm going to tell you guys something that's going to blow your mind, because I seen it for the first time last year. When Mycelium come up and planted that garden lake from California. I had this couple come up. They were escaping San Francisco. They were trying to make a more mass and take shots and all this kind of stuff. And she was a hairdresser, and I don't know what. Oh, he was a barber too. Yeah. And I said, you know what? Why don't you guys just stay here at the farm? I won't charge you a dime. And they were really cool. They'd come in and clean my house and make me juices and all this kind of stuff. We're being grateful to be there. But so she wanted to plant a garden. I said, honey, it's at the end of the year. I usually put my gardens to bed at this time. But if you want to try some stuff, go ahead. So she planted out a bunch of spinach and lettuce and all this stuff. You know, it got 4 degrees 3 nights in a row, and that spinach didn't die. There was no damage to it whatsoever. You could have flicked the leaves on that thing and it would have shattered. And by 10 o'clock, it was living and growing again. My other guys sales guys said, why in the hell didn't you tell us this? That's a great sales point. I said, I just found it out. So it doesn't make it more resilient? Yeah. The mycelium will protect the root of the plant through that super cold period. And it uses 2/3 less water normally when you're growing, and produces 3 times the volume. But more importantly, it makes the medicine. I mean, to me, that's the exciting news. The rest of it is just all financial shit. You know what I mean? You make more money and stuff. That's great and everything. But it's really a medicine that you guys are trying to create, or have the opportunity to be a part of that gift. You know, but you gotta be a part of it. You know what I mean? I mean, you could get your local farmer to walk in. You know, maybe his DNA would help you. I don't know. It's so new in with working with the health community. I don't know, but I have doctors and stuff that are super interested in making this part of their healing program in hospitals and stuff, where the patients would be able to eat some of this, and then we send them home with some more soil and let them do it in a little pot or something. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I have already purchased a bag of your soil. I do garden organically. I eat organic. My compost pile is half full.
Okay.
Should I put a little bit of the soil in there for
Absolutely.
the winter, and it'll make
Absolutely.
it better compost
It
also?
will.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because those microbes and the mycelium, it will transfer into that material. It will wind up with a little different mycelium at the end, but will it help? Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I love everything I'm hearing. I've never heard this before. It's amazing.
It is.
I love that it's God-centered. To me, that totally validates it. I have no question in my mind that everything you're saying is 100% true.
Yeah.
What really piques my interest is there any other person on the planet that has figured this out?
I didn't.
Is there any other person that's figured this out?
I hope so.
Not that you know.
I hope I'm not the only one. I mean,
Well,
I do. I really
maybe
hope that there's people that the God. Listen, I believe. You know, the Incas first had this soil, guys. It was called Preta Terra soil. To this day, the scientists don't even know how that soil was made, but it fed millions of people down there in South America in the jungle soils. That's the worst soil on earth. Everybody thinks jungle soil is good. Next time you look at pictures of the fauna and of the trees and stuff, look at the roots. It's so bad. The trees are growing their roots into the air to pick up some kind of nutrients. But these shamans were given the message. I believe that same message was given to me. Why that civilization failed back then, I don't know. But the Lord told me to start this project 16 years ago, and here it's ready to give to the world. So, but yeah, I'm hoping other folks have gotten the message.
Brian?
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah.
Can I, Lamar here, can I comment on that further?
Yeah.
What Brian's talking about, he's making a reference to the eagle and condor prophecies.
Yes.
And after 500 years of Columbus, in South America and I found out, I was on the Sioux Reservation promoting some of this stuff at Pine Ridge, Wounded Knee. And they know about this. I talked to a woman, I'm trying to get her on film in the next month or so. One of the survivors of the chiefs that were involved with that massacre and that whole, the indigenous people of the whole world, they know about this. They taught the eagle and condor prophecy in college level on the Pine Ridge Reservation up in South Dakota. They're linked with the Navajo. They're linked with the Hopis. A lot of these people know it, but there is a relationship between the people in the city that are starved for good food because it's been detached from the earth. The industrial farming processes have absolutely obliterated the nutritional value in the soils of many places, in many farms in the country. It doesn't matter if
Lamar, we only have a few more minutes. If anybody wants to talk to Lamar further about the eagle and condor, He's got a booth. What's the
What's the
name of your
number?
booth?
Blue Sage.
What's the number?
Blue Sage. Okay, where are we at? 5 minutes. Dan, you're on. Thanks, guys. Get up there. Obviously, you've been eating some food out of that soil.
Sure. Hi. So I'm a compliment to these guys because I followed their trail a little bit inadvertently, but I come from a company that's an underground consortium of growers and agronomists from the Midwest. We specialize in microbes. We sell, I don't know, $1 million worth of liquid microbes in the citrus industry in Florida and the blueberry industry. It's a very nice compliment to what he does. So to answer the question, is other people doing that? Are they doing it? Yes, it's happened. This is not unique. They take it off the shelf if you're Monsanto because everything he does is cannibalizing their business. But my point up here is something about urgency. If you're aware of the global bankruptcy that's upon us, if you look at there in the Western central banks, what's happening in Europe versus Russia and China and the BRICS, India, well, there's a big schism here. The 2030 plan, have you ever heard about that? And Klaus Schwab? Agenda 2030. We are going to get a reset. You have to be prepared for a reset. It's a military occupation. It's a military plan. This is a timing you cannot predict. It might happen before the election, but it might take 2 or 3 years of stretching out what they are trying to do. And so my idea was to, I borrowed it from Lamar Bush, and he said, Dan, I want to save my family. I live in Texas, and I thought, you know what, I want to save my clan. I want to communicate to my clan that if you can't relocate from Chicago on a timely basis, and that means planning to move out where it is safe. Medicinals matter. We have a medical clinic involved in this Eye of God, this whole project that Bryan and you guys all met on with the, what is it, an artesian well that came down from the mountains in the Vale. This water source is vital. If you're an investor, you want water, fresh water. If you're an investor, you want real land. As opposed to fiat, right? As opposed to stocks and bonds and those things that are going to lose value. You can see they're losing value through inflation. This is all intentional. They're going to crash the economy, whether it's the white hats doing it at our pace or Klaus Schwab doing it to bring you to your knees in a universal income, right? So my thought is a relocation plan to that, maybe a $10 million fund. I'm more from the Chicago Board of Trade on the finance side of it, where an individual could buy 2.5 acres in a larger community. That's very important, the community of, say, 300 acres, say 500 people, for $25,000 and work for it if he can't afford it, or he can contribute on the performing asset on top of the property separately. You could have hoop houses. There's a whole plan where you bring hoop houses in to grow your food when it's inclement weather and grow other things that require indoor growing. Put your tiny house inside of that, and now you can live inside the tiny house when it's winter. On this project, the most critical point is to bring growers and farmers from California and down in the valley that are skilled, that understand how to grow, whether it's indoor or outdoors, and train those from the city that have no idea. When you bring the training into the economy, because this will be a new economy, were it to happen, analogous would be Russia when the Soviet Union collapsed. Just go back to the 80s. There was no trailers and tractors and things pulling farm machinery. If we don't have diesel, we'll have the same situation. If you're going to survive, it's going to, you hear him allude to the spiritual component of it and the Anastasia, the cedars. Well, these were the communities in Ukraine that survived. And so I bring this book. There's a whole thing, a whole knowledge base here about spiritual belonging and surviving. There's 2 components to this investment. One is building and bringing food to yourself and spreading it outward to the community. And the relocation plan of safety is imperative. If you live in the city and you want to weather the storm, you're going to see civil unrest that is unconscionable. You can't allow children to go through this. The trauma of it alone will last their whole lifetime. So a relocation program allows them a place, get your feet in the water, so to speak, where they can have a community around them and learn the spiritual qualities of gathering together and sharing food and all that, that really allowed in Russia, 400 communities today still exist from the time period where there was no economy except bartering. How did you do that? Well, that's how we're going to mimic it. So you have to have both the spiritual and the capacity to build food. Thank you. I hope that wasn't too long. Thank you.
Guys, yeah, I have a website called exitandbuildaz.com. So I'm a big fan of Derek Bros and Freedom Cells, and we've kind of absconded to the White Mountains to build food, to build community, on a huge aquifer with trillions of gallons underneath our feet. I've got builders that can build you whatever you want in Apache County. If you build septic, you can grow, you can build almost any house you want to. Everything I do is centered around, the upcoming food famine. And since Bryan Jones can double and triple people's yield and actually create nutrient-dense food from nutrient-dense live soil, that's the basis to everything I'm doing there. There's a solution out of this. We just got to take the appropriate action to get there. So exitandbuildaz.com. I stole this from Derek Bros. And if you guys don't, exitandbuildaz.com. I stole this from Derek, and humor me. Repeat after me, you guys. I am beautiful.
I am beautiful.
I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I am free.
I am free.
We are the resistance. Thanks, guys.